What's new, 802? I'm Becca Hammond, and you're listening to Vermont Talks. Vermont Talks may include graphic or explicit content. Listener discretion is advised.
Okay. All right, welcome to Vermont Talks. I am here with Tristan, Sayre, Gilliss. He's the owner of Sky Audio in Richmond, Vermont, and he is the frontman of Valerie Falls.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm so happy. This is the third time we've recorded this interview. I want everyone to know that because I want to make it clear that we've tried really hard to get this show out.
It's been pretty a long and arduous journey.
A long and winding road of getting to this point.
As Paul McCartney would say.
So I think the first time we recorded, you hadn't actually opened the studio. So this is actually a good thing because now I can put pictures up on our show notes page. This is the 43rd interview. I'm getting lost here. I'm going to look it up and I'm going to tell you exactly what interview it is at the end of the show. But tell us all when your dream started of building the studio in Richmond.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, I always wanted a studio. The thing is I started, getting into recording music in, I guess, 2013. So I was like 16 years old or something. And I just always liked the idea of having like my own space. And for the longest time, I just thought, hopefully I'll just get hired somewhere and I won't have to worry about, just making my own space because it'd be so much money and a hassle. And, I just didn't think I was like cut out for something like that. But the more I got involved in, local bands and the scene and also getting recorded myself by these other studios, I realized, it was going to be a lot harder because there were a lot more kind of like lone wolves out there who were kind of just doing it themselves and doing these DIY sort of methods studios. And it at least gave me the confidence to know that I could do it myself and not second guess myself about doing that because all these other people were doing it. So, why couldn't I?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you have construction skills too, which certainly helped you out in building the studio. I
had less construction skills before, but I had the basic like gist, the basic 16 on center for framing is like a general one. that's one that I knew, and that was pretty much it.
Well, it's pretty impressive because the whole space is in a basement, but it's all free floating, so it's all basically soundproofed, and your neighbors can't really hear you at all.
Yeah, well, so I moved to Vermont in 2021, and prior to that, my girlfriend Megan, who's also in Valerie Falls, she's the other guitarist in that band. She was always interested in doing something with the basement. So you have one person who always wanted to have their own space for music or just recording or a band or whatever. And you have another person who wants pretty much the same thing, except in her mind, she was seeing it as actually more like a venue. And I was like, I don't know about a venue, Meg. I mean, it seems like it's a pretty small space. I mean, generally, especially if, you get 30, 40 like kids down there. But what I always thought would be a cool idea was, a studio. Now that could work. Throw some insulation in the ceiling, build a structure. And it wasn't going to be easy, but, lo and behold, I happened upon an old 401k that I didn't know about. And thus the studio was born.
Through a lot of labor and blood and
trial and tribulation and lots of sailorman talk, lots of swearing and just but it's here, it's tangible, it's real, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great little space. So I've been in this space. I know how it's definitely cozy. It's not really large by any means, but it sounds really good. Like, it sounds very solid, and you did it very professionally too. When you walk in, you can tell it's a studio. There's space for the drum kit, you know where that goes. It's very clear that this is set up with a nice audio setup. You got a good DAW and everything, and toys to play with.
Yeah, it wasn't easy because the thing is when you're designing a space like that, obviously there's the acoustics to consider, so you don't know if it's going to be something that you're going to have to even like you don't know if you're going to be able to build it in that space to begin with, especially in a place like a basement where it's so reflective. Like I had to consider if I even wanted to do a space or if I just wanted to use just the room itself and try to mold it to more of what I was looking for. And it took me probably like 20 or 30 different designs to come up with the one that we currently have, which is it combines basically like a listening room / mixing area with a live room. So it's all just sort of like one room, and you have the drum area as kind of like a separate corner, and then everything else just kind of happens on the floor.
Yep. And it's the drum area has a little stage, doesn't it? Right?
Yes, it does. And it's all by design. I mean, so like the way the drum room looks, it's definitely wonky. I mean, it's because it's built around pipes. And one could say like, oh, well, I'm sure that doesn't help the acoustics too well, building around all those pipes. The thing is what I've come to realize, just from the past, from seeing like different studios in person, is it's actually okay if it's a little bit more irregular, because the more areas where you can build to capture the sound, the deader it can be. And so I use the opportunity of having all these different nooks and crannies to kind of build these sound absorbers. So it was just a deader, nicer, quieter kind of space.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. Less 90-degree angles and flat space.
Yeah, well, it also helps that I'm a shitty carpenter. So I'm sure if you were like a carpenter, like a really like decent carpenter, and you went down there and you took a look, you'd immediately notice that something was off. But for pretty much anybody else, if you go down there, you're like, oh, wow, this looks really nice.
It looks like a recording studio.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm talking like if you were to put like a rule, like what do you call it, like a square, right, to like the corners, like it's not perfectly square. It's definitely not.
Well, you basically built an entire room, so not only the floors are all covered, you have no concrete floors to reflect sound off of, which is huge. You don't have exposed ceilings because is it all insulation? Did you put any other sound deadener in the ceiling?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, there were many different ways that I could have approached it. I mean, at one point, like in the original design, I was just thinking, okay, well, I mean, it'd be way too expensive to go and build a whole studio, so I'll just do like these little booths, and maybe that would be a better way of kind of both mitigating the vibrations getting out so we don't disturb the neighbors, but also keeping the sound in. And quickly realized, like, these booths were going to have to be huge, to a point where it would negate even attempting them in the first place, where it just maybe at that point makes more sense to just build a room.
Right. Well, the whole room is like one booth.
Exactly. So that's kind of the how I wanted to proceed. And so what you end up getting is kind of it's definitely sort of like a best case scenario for what I was given. I could have done double walls. I didn't do double walls because it's already concrete on two of the four faces. So already, you're looking pretty good with that.
And it's also a huge amount of space. Like you built inward on everything from the the ceiling down, the floor up, the walls in.
Yeah, everything is by design. So like how big it is right now, that was all determined by the size of the insulation, the brand of the insulation I was going to be using, where it was all going to go. As far as like the ceiling went, because obviously that wasn't an area that had, a lot of headroom originally, because it's just a basement. I think the ceiling originally was like 8'4" or something like that, which sounds large, but when you're building, like you said, like a structure within a structure, I mean, it becomes eaten up by those extra beams that you have to put up.
Yep.
So, and in my case, I just did 6 6-inch beams in the ceiling. And yeah, what I ended up doing was I put insulation in the original layer, which is just R30 insulation, which is the second to best, highest grade of R value that you can get. And then beneath that, I put the beams for the structure, which are just, like I said, the 6-inch bays, which I put R30 inside of. And then on top of that is actually what I put a soundboard.
Yep.
So there's a Homosote 440 soundboard on top of the beams for the structure, on top of which there is also an air gap that separates the two. So it never touches the main structure. There's always a gap or something preventing the vibrations from traveling outwards.
Yeah, that's huge. That's probably why your neighbors can't hear you, because bass, oh my God, does bass carry through a structure like nobody's business. I think it's worse than a drum kit, honestly. Somebody who's just wailing on that low E string or lower if you're drop tuning or what have you. Oh my God, that can carry. And I'm a bass player, but that drives me nuts. Like, I'm only hearing the worst of your bass playing. So I'm sure your neighbors very much appreciate all the work you've done.
There was just like so much thought that just like had to go into, just the type of situation that, we were handed. Just like, it just wasn't ideal. And definitely like the bass frequencies were, in my mind, it was like a pretty big problem because, when Megan first got this condo, she tried having band practice there, and basically they set up, the drummer played for maybe like 2 minutes, and within those 2 minutes the neighbor was at the door knocking, saying that in her words, her whole condo was vibrating.
Yeah. And
that just that was a huge indicator to me that, the main issue here wasn't necessarily that, it was noisy. It's that inherently sound is vibration. So if you can mitigate the vibration, you can therefore mitigate the sound traveling to a different location. And so the stage that I built for the drums is specifically designed to do that. So the stage doesn't touch the structure. Yep. So the box within a box structure that I built, it doesn't touch that. It's actually inset a good like 2 inches or so. And that 2 inches is something that I found in my research, that somewhere I read that you had to inset it at least to as many as 4 inches from whatever area you're trying to isolate.
Yep.
It's bottomed out with rubber, so it doesn't have any of the wood floor beneath it. It's just rubber, and then the wood is stuffed with more insulation on the floor. And then you have the plywood on top of that, which plywood, just wood in general, is a great sound deadener. And then on top of that is just some area rug.
Yep.
And you throw drums on top of that, and you'd be shocked with how it really does help mitigate the sound traveling out of that room.
Yeah, it's been a huge amount of work that you've done there. So you're ready. You're ready to start recording. I know you've done all of the Valerie Falls recordings, correct?
Yeah. So it's intended to be the first release from the studio. Is Valerie Falls' first album that we have coming out next year, and right now we're like 70 or 80% done with that album. It's going to be 12-track album. Was going to be maybe 13 or 14 or maybe no. We were always going to do the 12, but we just swapped songs out, songs that are better we want on the album. But we've done a lot of recording down there at this point. So very excited to get that out and get it, out there as the first Sky Audio produced release.
Cool. Very cool. Have you been doing any marketing? Are you putting your name out there to come and record?
Certainly under Valerie Falls. The thing is it's it's a lot of work, because being in a band in itself is already a huge amount of work, especially nowadays, where you have to be not just a musician, but like a marketing guy. You have to be a little bit of obviously you have to be, an artist, but in more ways than just, the actual musicianship, but you also have to make show posters or
Yes, you have to be a graphic designer, a videographer, a marketer, a
Right.
musician. There's probably 6 other things. A manufacturing expert if you
Of
want to do
course.
your own
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, we're out there like we've been. This is the first band that I've been in where we took like the merch really seriously too. So we have to worry about merch, and it's a lot. And then you have this like album that I'm producing under Sky Audio. So it's one of those things that, at the moment, it's definitely taken a backseat to just how intense the schedule has been with the band. But over the next couple of months is definitely going to be given a lot of attention, and especially leading up to that album release.
Cool. Do you have a date set, or are you guys just kind of floating into next year, sometime next year?
Yeah. So we've been talking to some friends in Don't Blink Music Group, actually. So they'll be helping us out with the release and getting it properly marketed. And it's going to be sort of a longer process to actually get the music out. But it's in this sort of environment for musicians, it's definitely the smartest thing to do is to get a PR sort of agency on your side.
So I feel like someone else has mentioned Don't Blink. It could have been Valerie Falls last time because you guys came on the podcast. It was awesome. Tell me more about Don't Blink. What do they do? What is it?
Yeah, so they offer a variety of services. They do some marketing. They do they will get you shows, even tours. They're sort of just an all around kind of like marketing, just hype sort of like agency, and they're super cool guys. Colin, one of their guys, is actually in a band that we just played with down in Randolph. I believe their name is Promise Game, but yeah, we just played with them down in Randolph, and yeah, had a great show with them, and yeah, just looking forward to working with them, getting these songs out.
Is it local?
I believe they're based in, I want to say Massachusetts, but I'm not entirely sure. It's either Massachusetts or New Hampshire or Connecticut.
Close enough to be local.
Definitely like New England oriented. I'll say that.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. I'll have to check them out. So, have you had anyone else come and ask you to record them yet? Have you had anyone? Are you doing? See, I forget. We've talked 3 times, so I've got to get this straight. Are you willing to master tracks other people have recorded? Do you want to record everything yourself? What's your preference? What's your ideal dream for Sky Audio?
Yeah, so Sky Audio in its current state is basically kind of a, it is for all intents and purposes like a one-man job. So you take that for what you will, but definitely offer tracking, mixing, mastering, pretty much anything that you could need, as well as production is a big part of my artistic approach. So it's definitely all of those are just kind of one and the same as far as Sky Audio goes.
Cool. Do you want to ever get into like live sound type recording?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I mean, from what I can tell, it's sort of like I don't want to say like a dying art, but they're definitely harder to come by, the live sound guys. I'm not sure if you know of James Cross. He's very much into live sound, so I guess I could plug him and say he did mix our show in Randolph, and it sounded pristine. So if you're looking for a guy, he would be the guy.
Yes.
I see. Live sound is just a totally different animal. So while I probably could do it, at least for right now, it's already enough on my plate just having the band and having the studio to work on all these tracks. And I think maybe in the future, if it ever if the opportunity presented itself and I felt like I could handle it, especially with the schedule and being in a band and everything, it's definitely something I'd be open to.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying it's a dying art, especially. I think of back in the 90s, there were, and earlier than that, there were a lot of albums that were live albums.
Yeah.
And that it's hard to find that now. A lot of modern bands never put out a live album, but I think there's something really special about those. In particular, and I know everyone talks about Queen, but Queen had some amazing, like, better than their studio tracks.
Yeah.
Of them playing live. And just these moments. There's another one of Tom Petty. I always love Tom Petty, where the whole crowd sang the song louder than him. And he just kind of let them sing for, half this song on a live album. Was amazing. It was just amazing to hear how connected everyone was and to get that feel from a live show. Studio tracks are amazing. There's something about that.
No, I totally know what you mean. So one of my favorite live albums is it's Nirvana at the Paramount. It's just so good. Just like you said, it's like one of those albums that almost sounds like, a lot of these tracks are just better than how they were initially, recorded. Well, I don't want to say better, but they're different.
They're so different with the crowd.
With the energy.
Yeah, there's something about the energy.
Yeah,
does
exactly.
something to the sound.
I will say, definitely live sound has come such a long way since the Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl, with the shrill screaming fans just totally like drowning them out. You go from that to something like, Nirvana at the Paramount. It's just like night and day. And especially like these days, you see a lot of stuff with like Audio Tree Live or back in the day with like the AOL sessions. And, there's still some good stuff out there. I think it's just a matter of where you're looking.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Audio Tree is almost like it's live, but it's like live in studio. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. I love some Audio Tree, but it's not the same. Like I want to hear how they play off the crowd, because that's it. The way that energy works its way back into the music, and you get everybody at a show gets a totally different experience and picks up on that energy. So to be able to record it in a way where it kind of gives you goosebumps when you listen to it. Like you almost feel like you're there when you can feel the energy. A lot of bands don't. You just miss that. I hope that we can get to that point in Vermont where we can start recording little DIY.
I love
shows.
it. It would be so cool, especially like the bigger venue. I would say in Vermont is Higher Ground, and it would be awesome to see some bands there, especially even some of the smaller bands. It would be awesome to see just some like professionally recorded sound coming out of there, unless they're. Not. That's not to say there might already be some, because if there are some, then I'm happy to
I would love to. I would love to talk to these people if they are, because I haven't heard anybody. I've seen people do there's some videographers recording a song or two, but one videographer is a lot different than someone set up to record the entire band and get the audio and the live sound correct. To put a real recording out and make it like the full album.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen that. If you're in Vermont and you're hearing this, please let me know if you know of any people doing this, because I'm fascinated by that entire scene. And I would love to see it. It's a huge investment though, in terms of just because you think of a band setting up for sound check, like that in and of itself is this massive undertaking. It's a huge amount of work. So if you're talking about, okay, band doing sound check, but now we're going to record you, that means we've got 10 mics, 15 mics set up.
Well, it's also frustrating because the thing about I mean, I guess you could say this for studio recording too, but any band is gonna have their own personal preferences, and sometimes it just conflicts with the reality of the situation. I guess. Yep. So you could be a sound guy at a place like Higher Ground or whatever, and you have a band that's on. And, their guitarist, for whatever reason, they just want to be turned up.
Yep.
And, at this point, he's drowning everybody else out. But he just doesn't want to, let up.
That's their art.
That's part of the art, is saying, fuck you.
Hey, to be fair, I feel like people like that, you do you. Mm-hmm. But the live sound guy is going to be like...
Well, no. Because you and I both know that guy is sitting there and he's ghost turning that knob.
Yeah.
And then giving the thumbs up to the guy on the stage like, yeah, you're good, buddy. Yeah, I can hear you a lot better now. You're right.
Yeah, you sound great now. If they get to that point. Because I feel like if you're going to give your live sound guy at the biggest venue in Vermont a hard time... you might not get welcome back to do that kind of thing, because it's just you're making problems for everybody else. Like, yes, respect your art, you get your own say, but you got to have some trust in the person that's helping you balance everything, because you can't hear it on stage, even with the monitors. Like, you're totally losing what it sounds like at the back of the room, in the corner of the room. Like, you can't know, you can't be in two places at once.
Well, it kind of circles back to what we were talking about before we started recording today. I was talking to you a little bit about Steve Albini. I've just been digging into like all of his stuff, all of his videos that he posts online.
And can you tell the people who he is?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so Steve Albini. So he is the producer who produced Nirvana's In Utero album, is probably what he's most known for. But he's sort of like a DIY hero. From just what I've been researching just the last like couple weeks, he's really done like a couple thousand actually albums of just a lot of DIY bands. And something really unique about him is that he actually even will refuse like credit. So, all these bands, not that, I'm sure the bands go out and, push it themselves like, oh yeah, mixed, produced by Steve Albini. But as far as like his like personal credit, he just does it for the love of the music. And I just think it's so awesome. But he also has this this just awesome, just sort of like, what do you call it? Just like thing that he does where he wants the bands to sound like they would if they were live.
Yep.
And he puts all of his efforts into capturing that sound, including, like you had mentioned before we started recording, he loves to get at least one capture of the band playing together.
Yep.
Maybe not necessarily in the same room, but together. So you have the sound of a live sounding band, and then he'll go in afterwards and do maybe a couple overdubs. Although he's somewhat of a purist, from what I can tell. He likes to keep it, very bare bones, but do just enough to elevate it to make it sound like you're in the room with them. I just think that's so awesome. And, even, as a producer myself, and as somebody who, always is like fiddling like with my toys, and just like I'll spend, countless hundreds of hours in like a song. It's nice that there's somebody out there who, is just, he just believes so strongly that, that sort of sound that you're chasing, that it can just be captured in mic.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through all these extra steps or buy all these extra pieces of like outboard hardware, although they look so tantalizing and nice.
Yes. 100%. I think there's something to be said about trying to keep that live sound alive, because there's nothing more disappointing than hearing a song you like on the radio and then going to see that band and being like, what in, like, this is not the same band. Like, I have a hard time believing this is the same band. And that's because they recorded it all separately. They did a huge amount of mastering. It doesn't sound the same. By the time you go see them live, you're like, there's been a few shows I've done that, and I'm like, whoa, like, woof, this was not what I was expecting, because it sets that certain expectation. Like, if you ever make it so big that they're playing you on the top 40,
eventually it'll stop sounding like them.
Yeah.
So it's a delicate balance, and I could say that personally, I may not agree with everything that Steve says, but I just think he's such a genius that you almost can't ignore somebody like that.
Yeah.
When he says something. And so at the very least, I like to take everything that he says into account, especially like lately when I've been working on the Valerie Falls stuff. I want it to sound like it would sound if we were playing a show, and in that same kind of energy that you were mentioning before, of just a live production and a live room with like a bunch of people in it. We're not going to do like the canned stuff though. We're not going to do like the woo, the claps, like, oh, you guys sound.
Oh
wow.
yeah, no, don't do anything canned. That would not be as good.
We won't do that.
Well, your tracks sound so slick. I've got to say, I know I gushed a bit when I was talking to the whole band with Valerie Falls, but highly recommend go check out Valerie Falls on Spotify, Bandcamp, whatever, and just hear how Tristan mastered these tracks, and I think you'll appreciate and also want to work with him. If you need someone to help you record, I think you should definitely hit up Tristan. So, Tristan, what is your website for Sky Audio?
So the site for Sky Audio is www.skyaudio.com.
And it's SKYAUDIO.
That's right.
Okay.
And also, just a little aside here, you said mastered. I did not master those tracks. That was Mr. Ryan Cohen at Robot Dog Studios.
Oh, snap.
I did.
I apologize.
Yep. Nope. That's okay. I did mix those tracks, but those are mastered by Ryan over there at Robot Dog.
Yes. Shout out to Robot Dog Studios.
Out to
Gosh,
Ryan.
He's very talented. All the praise to Ryan. I didn't realize that. I thought you did everything on those.
For those, the thing is sometimes you want to have the extra set of ears because you get so involved in it and it's your baby that you almost can't tell what's good apart from your own personal bias.
Yeah.
And so every now and again, you have to take a step back and say, do I really want to take this, all the way, or do I maybe want to just, be a little bit safer? And that was just the route that I decided to take. So
you recorded and you mixed everything. And are you doing the whole album, recording and mix? And then are you sending the whole album to Robot Dog for the mastering?
No, I think for the full album, it is just going to be in-house. But, it's just one of those things.
Because you can master.
Yeah. Well, it was different for the first couple singles because, what you have to understand is, I'm very new to, for example, recording full drum sets. A lot of, I'm sure producers out there who are just starting out can probably relate to that. But recording drums is seen by a lot of people as being the next step, and becoming getting rid of that imposter syndrome and, really teaching yourself how to be a better producer. And for me, that was the first two singles that we put out, Rosie and Ghost of Autumn. So those are the first singles that I ever recorded drums for. And, as such, not having that experience prior, it was just kind of a situation of, okay, I think they sound good.
They do. I never would have realized that was the first time you recorded a drum kit if you hadn't told me that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that I fooled you, but
hey, I wasn't fooled. It's good stuff. I got nothing but good things to say about you and your band. We're at 32 minutes. I think we're gonna call it. So, Valerie Falls, you guys have any shows planned coming up? I know you're gonna release an album next year.
Yeah, so we have a show coming up January 27th. That is going to be at. I actually can't remember.
Is that the Lily's? No.
No. Wait, let me look up because I have a poster.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, you know what? I remember where it's going to be. That's going to be down in White River Junction, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, cool.
So that, let me just find the venue just so I can.
You guys have been all over the state. You had a show up in Derby a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. It's just we've had so many shows recently. It's, I know it's a lame thing to say, but it's actually kind of legitimately hard to keep track of.
Yeah, everything starts blending together the more you play.
Exactly. It's not coming up, but it is in White River Junction.
And you can find Valerie
you can find the poster on our socials. We're on Facebook.
Yes,
we're on Instagram.
Valerie Falls is VALLORY Falls.
Correct. Yep.
Spelled not like Valerie the name, Valerie like a place.
Like a place.
Like a place. So thank you so much, Tristan, for coming on the show. Please check out Valerie Falls. Check out Sky Audio. I'm excited for you. It's a very cool space.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a good one, everybody.
Thanks so much for listening to the end of the show. Subscribe to Vermont Talks on your favorite podcasting platform. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all over the web. Contact Becca at vermonttalks.com if you'd like to be interviewed or if you know someone who should be. Thanks so much to Jason Baker for creating the show music. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are those of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Vermont Talks. Any content or statements provided by our guests are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. And that's what was new in the 802. Have a great day.